The seas are about to change forever. For months, fans of One Piece have been waiting for one reveal, one moment that could make or break Netflix's live-action adventure. It's not a new ship, not a fearsome villain, but a character so unique, so beloved, that adapting him feels almost impossible. His name is Tony Chopper, the Straw Hat Crew's doctor. Their heart, and one of the most iconic figures in the entire One Piece saga. Bringing Chopper to life is not just another step forward for Netflix. It's a test, a challenge, a gamble that could decide whether this adaptation sails smoothly into the new world or sinks under the weight of its own ambition. Chopper is not just another crewmate. He is the emotional center of the Straw Hats, the kind of character who makes you laugh in one moment and cry in the next. In the anime and manga, his story starts with heartbreak. Born as a reindeer with a blue nose, he was rejected by his herd. When he ate the human fruit, he transformed into something in between too human for reindeer, too strange for humans. This painful loneliness shaped him into a character who longed for connection. But then came Dr. Hiraluk, the man, who taught Chopper what it means to live, to heal, and to believe in people even when the world turns its back. Chopper's journey from an outcast to the doctor of the Straw Hat Pirates is one of the most moving arcs in all of One Piece. He doesn't just fix wounds or cure sickness. He embodies the idea of finding family when you have none. Every fan remembers the moment he joined Luffy's crew, not just as their doctor but as their friend. That's why his introduction in Season 2 matters so much. It's not just about adding a new character. It's about bringing in the soul of the story. In many ways, Chopper represents what makes One Piece so special. He is proof that no matter how strange or different someone is, they can find a place where they belong. His mix of innocence and bravery brings warmth to the darkest moments. Without him, the Straw Hats would not feel complete. And that's exactly why Netflix faces such a huge challenge. Because if Chopper doesn't work on screen, the entire tone of the show could fall apart. Think about what Season 2 will cover. The Straw Hats are headed toward the Drum Island Arc, a place of icy mountains, cruel rulers, and emotional battles. This is where Chopper's story will unfold, where his scars will be revealed, and where his decision to join the crew will change everything. This is the moment when One Piece stops being just an adventure and becomes something deeper, something about found family, sacrifice, and hope. Chopper's presence will also shift the balance of the crew. Each Straw Hat has their role. Luffy is the dreamer, Zoro is the strength, Nami is the navigator, Usopp is the storyteller, and Sanji is the cook. But Chopper is the one who ties them all together with his compassion. He is the childlike wonder that softens the battles, the medical genius who saves lives, and the innocent friend who reminds everyone why they fight in the first place. Without him, the series risks losing its heart. That's why Chopper is not just important, he is essential. And that's also why the pressure on Netflix is unlike anything they faced in Season 1. Buggy's powers, Luffy's stretching, Mihawk's swordsmanship, those were all impressive challenges. But Chopper is different. He's not just about spectacle. He's about emotion. If they get him wrong, fans won't just complain about CGI or costume design. They'll feel like the soul of One Piece has been lost. This is the weight Netflix now carries. Because with Chopper's reveal, they're not just introducing a character. They're introducing the heart of the Grand Line. Bringing Chopper into live action is more than just adding another Straw Hat. It's a creative nightmare wrapped in a fan's dream. Think about it, Chopper is not a normal character. He's a talking reindeer who can walk on two legs, transform into different forms, and still somehow be the cutest face in the entire series. That combination might look natural in anime, but in live action, the wrong design choice could easily slip into the territory of unsettling or unbelievable. This is the tightrope Netflix now has to walk. On one side is the need to stay faithful to Eiichiro Oda's original design, the big eyes, the tiny body, the playful look that makes Chopper instantly lovable. On the other side is the demand for realism. Because if Chopper looks too much like a cartoon, he won't fit in with the grounded world Netflix built in Season 1. Fans already praised how the first season balanced fantasy with grit. Now, introducing a blue-nosed reindeer that talks could break that balance completely if not done with care. The challenge isn't just about appearance. It's about emotion. Chopper is a character who has to make audiences feel. We need to see his sadness when he remembers being rejected. We need to feel his joy when he finally finds acceptance with the crew. If his design doesn't allow him to show those emotions, then his entire arc will fall flat. That's why Netflix cannot treat this like just another CGI effect. They need to create a character who breathes, who feels, who lives on screen. Look at what other productions have done. Rocket Raccoon in Guardians of the Galaxy works because every flick of his ear, every twitch of his eyes is full of emotion. Gollum in Lord of the Rings became legendary not just for his look, but because motion capture gave him depth and humanity. Netflix has to deliver the same level of detail with Chopper. Anything less will be rejected immediately by fans who already have sky-high expectations. But here's the twist. Unlike Rocket or Gollum, Chopper is supposed to be cute. He's supposed to make viewers smile the second they see him. And cuteness in live action is a dangerous game. If they go too far, Chopper might look like a mascot or a plush toy walking around with the straw hats. Too little, and he could look creepy, an uncanny version of a child-sized reindeer that feels out of place. The margin for error is razor thin. Another part of the challenge comes from Chopper's multiple transformations. In the story, his devil fruit powers allow him to shift into different forms: the tiny brain point, the stronger heavy point, the monstrous forms that push him to his limits. Netflix can't just design one version of Chopper. They need to design many, all consistent, all believable, and all capable of showing emotion. That alone is a mountain of work for the VFX team, and then comes the budget question. Season 1 already demanded heavy effects for powers like Luffy stretching and Buggy splitting. Now with Chopper, Netflix faces one of the most VFX-heavy characters in the entire saga. Will they invest enough to make him perfect, or will we see shortcuts that disappoint fans? History tells us that fan expectations for beloved characters are brutal. Just look at the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, which had to completely redesign its character after Backlash. If Netflix missteps with Chopper, the outcry could be even louder. But at the same time, this challenge is also an opportunity. If they pull it off, Chopper could become the face of the live-action series. His plush-like cuteness could bring in new audiences, kids who fall in love with him instantly, while his emotional depth could remind older fans why One Piece is timeless. That's why this design challenge is not just about technical effects. It's about defining the future of the series, because let's be clear, Chopper is not a side character who can fade into the background. He's central. He's the doctor, the healer, the comic relief, and the heart of the crew. If his design fails, every moment with him fails. But if Netflix succeeds, they won't just win the trust of fans. They'll prove that this adaptation can handle even the wildest, most impossible parts of Oda's world. And that is exactly what will carry the show forward into arcs even bigger and bolder than Drum Island. When it comes to bringing Chopper into live action, Netflix doesn't have just one path forward. There are several possible approaches, each with its own strengths and risks. And while fans debate endlessly online about what would work best, the truth is that no option is perfect. Each one comes with trade-offs that could either elevate Chopper into one of the most beloved live-action anime characters ever or doom him to be remembered as the show's biggest mistake. The first and most obvious route is full CGI. With today's technology, Netflix could create a fully computer-generated Chopper, animated frame by frame with performance capture. This would allow them to replicate his classic look: big eyes, small stature, expressive face without worrying about the limitations of costumes or prosthetics. CGI Chopper could switch between his forms easily, shrinking into brain point, or towering into heavy point at the push of a button. But while this approach promises flexibility, it also risks alienating fans. A fully digital Chopper might feel out of place in a world where so much of the environment, costuming, and acting is grounded in reality. If the VFX aren't flawless, He could end up looking more like a video game character than a crewmate who belongs on the Going Merry. The second option is practical effects enhanced with CGI. This approach blends real costumes, puppetry, or animatronics with digital touch-ups. Imagine a small actor or puppet in a chopper suit with CGI used to refine the eyes, mouth, and transformations. This would ground Chopper physically in the same space as the actors, giving him a natural weight and presence on screen. Audiences would feel like he's really there, sharing the same world. But this method is also extremely difficult. Puppetry risks making him look stiff, while costumes could limit his emotional range. Even with CGI enhancements, there's a chance he might not reach the full expressiveness fans expect. Then there's the hybrid performance capture method, similar to how Gollum in Lord of the Rings or Caesar in Planet of the Apes were brought to life. In this version, a small performer, maybe even a child actor or a stunt double, would wear a motion capture suit. Their physical movements would be the base, while CGI layers would build Chopper's reindeer-like features on top. This gives the character a natural flow and emotional depth, as every twitch and gesture comes from a real human performance. It's one of the most expensive and complex approaches, but it could also be the most rewarding. Fans would get a Chopper who is both grounded and expressive, capable of showing sadness, joy, and even fear in ways that pure CGI alone sometimes fails to capture. Another creative path would be stylized realism, where Netflix leans into a slightly altered version of Chopper's design. Instead of copying the anime look exactly, they could make him more animalistic, leaning toward a realistic reindeer hybrid. This would reduce the risk of him looking cartoonish, but it might upset fans who want the cute, wide-eyed Chopper they know from the source material. The danger here is simple: too much realism and he loses his charm. Too much cuteness and he breaks the tone of the world. This balancing act could define whether the series thrives or collapses under fan scrutiny. We also need to consider Chopper's transformations. Whichever method Netflix chooses, they'll have to account for his multiple forms. His brain point form is small and adorable, his heavy point form is bulky and powerful, and his monstrous transformations are wild and intimidating. Each of these requires a different design approach. A puppet might work for brain point, but not for heavy point. A fully digital model might excel at monster point, but struggle with small, intimate moments. This means Netflix may even mix different methods, using practical effects for certain scenes and CGI for others. But consistency will be key. If Chopper looks drastically different every time he changes forms, fans will immediately notice. There's also the matter of interaction with the cast. Chopper isn't a background character. He hugs his crewmates, patches up wounds, cries with them, laughs with them. His physical closeness to the other Straw Hats is central to his role. A fully CGI character might feel distant, like he's floating in another world. A practical or hybrid version allows for touch, for weight, for shared space. That makes the decision even more complicated, because the more physical Chopper is, the more believable his relationships become. Ultimately, every approach has one unshakable requirement: Chopper must be expressive. His eyes, his face, his body language all need to convey his emotions with clarity. Fans will forgive budget limitations if the heart of the character shines through. What they won't forgive is a lifeless, flat version of Chopper who feels like an effect rather than a crewmate. Netflix now stands at a crossroads. Will they gamble on full CGI, risk the uncanny valley with practical effects, or spend the massive budget needed for performance capture? Whatever they choose, one thing is certain: this decision will define Season 2, because the moment Chopper steps onto screen, every fan will decide in seconds whether this adaptation has truly captured the spirit of One Piece or whether it has lost its way. Chopper's reveal is not just a design challenge or a technical hurdle. It's a storytelling turning point that will shape how audiences experience One Piece moving forward. Season 1 introduced us to the core crew and laid the foundation for the Straw Hats' adventure. But Season 2 must raise the stakes, not only in scale and spectacle, but also in emotion. And no character embodies that emotional leap more than Tony Chopper. The moment the Straw Hats set foot on Drum Island, the tone of the story changes. The playful adventures of East Blue give way to harsher reality's oppression under Wapol, the icy landscapes that test their survival, and the heartbreaking backstory of a young reindeer who never felt like he belonged. This is where One Piece begins to show its true depth. It's no longer just about chasing dreams or fighting enemies. It's about loss, sacrifice, and the painful journey of finding a family. Chopper's presence anchors all of these themes. If Netflix can bring him to life in a believable way, then the emotional weight of Drum Island will hit audiences with full force. Imagine the scenes: Chopper remembering Dr. Hiriluk's sacrifice, his fear of being rejected yet again, and the tearful moment when Luffy extends his hand and welcomes him aboard the Going Merry. These moments have the power to break hearts and heal them at the same time. Done right, they could elevate Season 2 far beyond what anyone expects from a live-action anime, but Chopper's role doesn't end with his backstory. Once he joins the crew, he reshapes their dynamic completely. He brings innocence to balance. The seriousness of Zoro and Nami, he adds humor that plays off Usopp's exaggerations. And he creates touching bonds with Sanji, who respects him as a fellow caretaker of the crew. Most importantly, he deepens Luffy's role as a captain who doesn't just gather fighters, he gathers souls, people who need each other to survive. With Chopper on board, the Straw Hats transform from a group of adventurers into something that feels like a true family. This is why Chopper's adaptation matters beyond visuals. If he feels real, then his relationships will feel real. And those relationships are the lifeblood of One Piece. When Chopper panics during a battle, but still finds the courage to act. When he tends to his injured crewmates with tender care. When he blushes at compliments and hides behind his hat, those little moments are what make fans fall in love with him. If Netflix nails these beats, then Season 2 won't just succeed, it will soar. However, there's also the risk of failure. If Chopper doesn't connect, then entire scenes could lose their power. The tragic flashbacks of Drum Island might fall flat if audiences are distracted by an awkward design. The heartfelt crew moments could turn into unintentional comedy if Chopper feels out of place. Worse, it could break immersion entirely, reminding viewers that they're watching actors against a CGI creation rather than a living, breathing character. That kind of failure would cast a shadow not only on Season 2 but on future arcs as well. After all, if Chopper doesn't work, how will Netflix handle even more fantastical characters down the line like Brooke or Frankie? On the other hand, imagine the possibilities if they succeed. Picture the fan reactions when the first trailer drops and Chopper appears looking perfect, adorable, believable, and full of emotion. Social media would explode. Memes, fan art, and hype would spread like wildfire. Chopper could become the breakout star of the entire adaptation, drawing in casual viewers who never even watched the anime. Kids might beg their parents for Chopper plushies, while longtime fans might cry seeing their favorite reindeer finally come to life. Netflix would not only win trust, but also cement the series as something truly special, something that respects its source while daring to bring it into a new medium. Chopper's reveal is also a statement. It says whether Netflix is truly committed to adapting all of One Piece, the wild, the strange, the emotional, the impossible. Because One Piece isn't just about pirates and battles. It's about talking reindeer, skeleton musicians, cyborg shipwrights, and dreams so big they defy logic. If Chopper feels real, then everything that follows becomes possible. But if he fails, doubt will linger over every future season. So, what does this mean for Season 2's storytelling? It means everything. Chopper is the test, the heart, the gamble. His arc will show whether Netflix can handle the balance between comedy and tragedy, between fantasy and reality. If they succeed, Season 2 could become a landmark in live-action adaptations, remembered not just for epic battles, but for emotional storytelling that moves people around the world. In the end, Chopper's reveal is more than just a character introduction. It's a symbol of hope, of family, of belonging. And for Netflix, it's also a symbol of whether they can truly capture the magic of Eiichiro Oda's masterpiece. The seas are rough, The challenge is enormous, but if they get this right, Chopper won't just heal the Straw Hats, he'll heal the doubts of every fan watching.